Hi, everybody. Pastor Cliff here with the Goodness Gracious podcast broadcast of Grace Community Church. We are so glad that you've tuned in. Now make sure you touch that subscribe button because we need to get subscribers onto our YouTube channel. But we're here today. I'm so excited. We've got Pat Davis with us today. And Pat is one of the most joyful people I know. Pat, welcome to Goodness Gracious.
Thank you. Glad to be here. I've enjoyed the rest of your
Well,
series.
good. Yeah, it's kind of fun. You can zoom in on people's lives and begin to learn a little bit more than maybe you initially
That's right.
thought. So, Pat, I am curious, where in the world did you grow up?
I grew up in Detroit back when Detroit was a great city.
Oh,
It was in the
Motor City.
40s and 50s, and it was the highlight of. It was a plum city at that time. It was.
Did
really,
you
really
have a
good.
mother or father that worked in the auto industry?
No,
or?
both my parents were teachers. My father
Okay.
was a music teacher, and my mother was a PE teacher, which
Oh.
at that time kind of seemed reverse roles, but they did. So they were teachers in the Detroit Public Schools, and then when I graduated from Michigan, and if Jan is watching this, go blue, you had your choice of being a secretary, a teacher, or a nurse, and I fainted at blood, so I decided on the teacher for my parents, and then I taught school.
What grade did you teach?
I taught first grade for 6 years
Oh,
in
wow.
Michigan. Then I moved out here and taught. No, not out here. I moved to Denver and taught there for another 3 years. And then I got my library degree, and I was a librarian after that.
My goodness, it sounds wonderful.
It was fun. It was
Well,
good times.
so when you were growing up, did your folks go to church? Did you go to
Mhm.
church? Tell us a little bit about your spiritual
Well,
growth.
it started probably before I was born. My mother was raised Seventh-day Baptist.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
that
different.
meant from Friday night sundown till Saturday night sundown, they sat on the steps and waited for the sun to go down because they couldn't do a thing. She and her brother couldn't do a thing. They couldn't go to Friday night football games. They couldn't go to dances. They couldn't do anything. So anyhow, then when she married my father, they went to an Episcopalian church for congregational maybe, anyhow, for a very short time. Then they ended up in a Baptist church, but my grandmother was fairly certain that my mother had gone to you-know-where because she had gone to a Sunday service instead of a Saturday
Oh,
service. And she
oh.
wrote her a scathing letter, which I still have.
Oh.
And my grandmother was very gentle and very kind, but anyhow, they were very rigid.
Wow.
So I was born and raised Baptist and went to church 2 or 3 times a week. Never missed a youth group though because they had some really cool guys.
Oh, there you
Really
go.
cool guys in the
Well,
youth group. Missed that. And was a Baptist all the way through when I went to college. I accepted the Lord when I went to a Youth for Christ YFC meeting.
oh, wow. Yeah.
Which I had grown up in the church and I emotionally probably believed all of it, but mentally.
Do you remember when? Do you remember the moment when
Actually,
the
I do.
scales were tipped?
Yep, it was that night that I remember that, and I remember going home and thinking, this is different, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, not that I always followed it after that, I didn't, but, but I tried to, so. That was my church upbringing. It was definitely a church upbringing. In fact, my sister and I loved our pastor so much that when we got mad at my parents and we were going to run away from home, we were going to go live with the pastor. Because he had 4 girls and he treated them very nicely.
Oh,
So
there
he
you
would
go.
certainly have
Perfect.
treated us nicely too, I think.
Well, now, so you grew up, you were teaching, you were a librarian. I always like
Not
to
the
say-
first person.
It always makes people cringe if they're in teaching. And you have 2 lovely daughters, as I
do.
understand.
I
And,
do.
Um,
I got married shortly after college, 2 years after college, and although that turned out to probably not be as good a thing as it could, it gave me a lovely daughter, Jackie, who now lives in California, and so that was worth the whole thing. And then things got not so nice, and my Baptist minister's wife said I really probably should get out of that. So I did, and I moved out to Denver.
Okay.
And
Now you've got another daughter that I've met.
yes,
As
yes,
well.
yes.
I really like
Tanya.
her.
Oh,
Tanya.
Tanya loves you. She
Oh.
talks about it all the
She's
time.
a sweetheart. Yeah.
So then I met Ned after I moved out there. After I said never again, I met Ned, and then we had Jackie, and we had Tanya, and the 2 girls, even though they're 6.5 years apart, are very close.
That's wonderful. Now, how many years ago did you meet Ned, and How long have you been
I
married?
knew you were going to say that.
Just a
We met him in
ballpark
71,
figure.
got married in 72, so this will be our 48th wedding anniversary.
With
coming
Ned?
up. With Ned.
Oh my
I
gracious!
know, I'm older than you. I'm old.
Oh no! Ned's old, but
No, I married a younger man, actually. But yeah.
there you go. Really? Oh my goodness! Well, God's been very gracious to you.
Thank you.
And so you married Ned, and Ned is a man who's all fired up for Jesus. Was he always that way?
No, but I'll leave that story for him.
Oh, okay. I'm anxious to find out more.
You ask him about his military experience
Oh,
and his
we're-
conversion. Yeah.
We're
it's
gonna
interesting.
find
Okay.
out all about that. So that was after you were married that
No.
happened, or
No.
before?
Well-
Okay, or kind of.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
After we were married.
Yeah.
After we were
Yeah.
married, yeah.
So as you've gone through life and faith, have you had experiences where your faith has been tested, where you've struggled and you've just had to call out to the Lord and He answered you? Can you tell us
Yeah.
about those times?
Probably many times, but two specifically. One was when I was going through a very difficult time back in Detroit, in Birmingham, where I lived, and just that went on for such a long time. I never lost my belief in God, but I did ask a lot, why is this happening to me? You know, I think, what did I do wrong? You know, kind of thing. And then realistically, I knew that it was somewhere in God's will somewhere, because then I could meet Ned. And the other time was when Ned was in the hospital, and this is just so vivid to me. He was in the hospital 2 years ago, right, in July, and he was very sick with his kidney problem, very sick. And I had been there, and it had been late at night, and I came home, and I was crying all the way home, driving into my driveway in the dark and just saying, you know, I can't lose him. I don't want to lose him. And I drove into the driveway, and we have this big, I call it a monster plant next to us with blooms occasionally. It blooms sometimes. Anyhow, as I drove into the driveway, there was one perfect blossom sitting there. And I knew that that was God telling me he was going to be all right. And by the next morning, because they don't last long, it was gone. But I just knew that was it. He was telling me he was going to be all right. So
Little signs that God gives
definitely,
us
yeah.
at
just so
times. Oh,
it's
my
like, you know,
goodness.
you pray more when you're in trouble,
Yeah,
or when you have trouble.
You all have been going to Grace Community for 3, 4, 5 years?
3.5 maybe? 4.
4 years?
4 years.
Wow, okay, so have you been going to Grace since the time you arrived in town, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Ned had been part of a committee with the EPC, and so we went to visit one small church, very small, 12 people in the congregation, and that was very nice, but it was a long ways away. And then the church that we came from, Cooper, had preached at.
Okay.
Before I'd been a pastor there. We didn't know him, but the people said, oh, you've got to try his church. And we walked in, and we were home.
How about that?
We just never tried another one.
Well,
Loved it here.
makes sense.
People were so friendly.
Very sweet
Friendly.
people in this
Mhm.
congregation. I hope you all hear that. Stay sweet,
They are.
no sour.
No, they were so welcoming, just so welcoming. It's really, so
What-
through it all.
Obviously, you know, it's easy to say, oh, I love welcoming people, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Was there anything else is there anything else where you have just said, this has meant a lot to me as I've been a part of this congregation, as I've been a part of Grace Community? This group, this event, this situation has meant more to me than a lot of other things. Is there anything in particular?
Probably, and I'm not just saying that because Michelle's listening, but the choir has meant a lot. I've always been in choirs, but this group is just particularly unified, I think, and all on the same page as far as beliefs are concerned, and I've really enjoyed that. And I've enjoyed the special things that we have, like that 4th of July thing, or when you had the special things that bring us all together. Enjoyed the Bible studies.
The gag gifts at Christmas?
The gag gifts at Christmas, definitely.
Oh, what fun!
Yeah,
What
it was
fun!
Yeah.
So how have you seen God at work as you've been dealing with this national emergency?
Right.
And I know you're probably on the phone to Donald all the time.
I am.
But as you've been kind of working through this national emergency situation, have you seen God at work in your life?
Well, keeping us healthy for one thing, because it would be really bad if Ned got sick, kind of thing. So keeping us
yeah.
healthy is we pray every day for that, and that's been huge.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess over and above, I feel like we're kind of cocooned, we're in a good shape, but there are some people in this church that really need God's grace a lot. I mean, by healing, and Marty is one of them. I'm real concerned about Marty, and he seems to be doing a little better, and many other names too. But I guess I've seen he came through. He's home. You know, it's a good thing.
And this is one of the things that we're trying to do as a church, and every church that's worth its salt should be doing, is building our relationships so that when we go through hard times, we're there for each other and to encourage each other and build each other up. And as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. But a lot of folks forget, and we understand if you're homebound, we understand if you're under quarantine, we understand all that. But the church is meant to be a community of people. And everything that you've said so far today has involved other people, has involved the larger church. And that's so encouraging. So I'd like to know if you have something that you'd like to share directly with the people of Grace Church, Grace Community Church.
That's where I don't do too well under pressure. Just stay as loving as you are and as accepting as you are, and just keep those arms out, and as soon as we can hug again, we're going to hug.
Pat Davis, everybody, I'm so glad that you tuned in today, and I would just pray that you would keep the faith and keep your eyes fixed on Jesus until we meet again. God bless you.